Hello, friends. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Over the course of the next couple of episodes, we're going to be talking about how I create $1,000,000 offers. And what I'm hoping is that I can bring something new to your body of knowledge that you already have, because there's a lot of good advice already out there. There's lots of books. There's lots of people who have lots of different ideas, and there's programs. We even have programs to help you create offers. What I want to do is try and share with you some ideas that you might not have heard before. I am such a proponent of spending time getting the offer right, because I've been doing this now for 17 years, and I can tell you without any hyperbole, without any hype, that the offer you decide to go to the marketplace with, whether it's your first offer or you're adding another offer to offers you're already creating, or you're trying to strategically use offers in different ways, any offer you create will then dictate the life you live as a business owner. And what I mean by that, it's really simple. Offers that are great are easy to sell. And when things are easy to sell, that means you have a low pressure business, because you're not constantly scrambling and fighting and clawing to get people to pay you money. So the money flows easily. A really good offer, structured correctly, price-wise, which we'll talk about one of these days in one of the parts of this whole, multi-part series that we're doing. If it's priced correctly, then you'll have margin. And what is margin really? Margin is peace of mind. Margin is realizing you don't have to play the volume game. You don't need to sell hundreds or thousands of units of something. You can sell a few of them, and you have enough money left over to hit your financial goals. So that means if you have an offer that is easy to sell, and you don't have to sell a lot of them because they were priced properly, then you don't have to have this business that you're feeling constantly behind in, where you're constantly having to sell and make more and do more, and it's that volume play. That's what burns most business owners out. And so when I say, how to create $1,000,000 offer, yes, I mean the offer that will, generate $1,000,000 over the course of its lifetime. But more importantly, for your sanity, for your health, for life balance, for your longevity, I'm interested in the offer that creates the quote unquote $1,000,000 lifestyle, which doesn't necessarily mean you need to spend $1,000,000 to live it, but you feel like $1,000,000. You go, oh, I can't believe this is my business. I love what I'm doing. I love who I'm doing it with. That result, so to create that in your life, it's not about marketing. Okay, that's what the marketing gurus want you to believe, right? And I sell marketing stuff. I've been in this world for 17 years. I'm telling you, only the marketing gurus will tell you that to create a great lifestyle, it's all about the marketing you do for your business. It is not. It is the offer. What you have designed to go out to the market and say, this is me, this is my business, this is what I'm selling, is what will determine how you live. So over the course of the next couple of days, I really want to break down some important things for you to think about in that regard, but also to help give you some tools to make creating something awesome easier. Because the beautiful thing is that this is not rocket science. It really isn't. It is understanding humans. It is understanding that simple isn't the same thing as easy. It is understanding that you have to live the consequences of the choices you make, and therefore the choices you make about what your offer is will lead to So there's a lot of that stuff, and we'll cover it all over the course of the next couple of days. But this is not anything that you cannot do yourself. In fact, what I hope that you'll find is the process that I use is really and ultimately about you being your youest you, Now, I know that sounds like a line, but you'll see here in a second what I mean. The help industry is very driven by human to human contact, relationship, connections, etc. And what I mean by that is what drives a lot of this industry is people who are at the bottom of any given ladder. So let's say that they're at the bottom of a relationship ladder, or they're at the bottom of a financial ladder, or they're at the bottom of a hobby ladder, or they want to become a farmer and they're at the bottom of that ladder, meaning they're at the starting point. They're either in a bad situation they want to get out of, or they're just starting and they want something new, or they have aspirations, but they're at the bottom of this ladder. And at the top of this ladder are the people selling coaching and consulting and courses and things, helping those people up through that ladder. So that means by definition, if you're going to be a coach, a consultant, you want to do done for you services, and your whole vision is to make it big in this business, you have to understand that your role is to be at the top of that ladder and to help people up. That's what this business is. If you don't want to do that, if that holds no interest for you, you need to find something else to do for a living, because that is what this business is. It's helping people up that ladder. Health, fitness, whatever it is. Now, because of the internet and the explosion of information and you being bombarded by 4,000 ads a day and you being on everybody's email list and you having all these different ideas and shiny object and the Kelly O'Connor emotional cycle of change, when things get hard, you look for something easy, so you jump and all this stuff, we have lost as an industry the simplicity of what I just described. That all this business is about helping somebody who's at the bottom of the ladder make their way up to at least where you are. And you as a consumer, you're constantly looking around, looking up at people. How do I get to where they're at? And that's what drives this whole thing. I think it's beautiful. I think it's an amazing, wonderful thing. And it's just how human beings work. It's how communities work. It's how relationships work in multiple different settings. At work, if you're in a healthy, good workplace, you have mentors that will help you along. And if you've ever been on sports teams, and it's a good, non-toxic kind of situation, that should be occurring, and et cetera, right? So you have this is a very normal human thing, and this industry really, really relies on that. But what's happened is that people have overcomplicated the act of reaching down and lifting someone up. They said it has to be a 90-step funnel. You need to know this. You have to have this. You have to have... If somebody were to come to me and say, like, gun to the head, I know that's a sort of a silly example, but just for example, if I was forced, if everything I ever built would be completely wiped away, if I couldn't drill down to the core essence, how to describe how to be as successful as possible in this industry, if I was forced to do it and I wanted to, what is this entire information, marketing, coaching, consulting, done for you services, what does it really boil down to? It boils down to creating a story and then building offers around that story. That is how you get somebody at the bottom of the ladder to pay you money to go up. That is how you sell. That's how you hire even. You'll build teams around the story that you have created. And we'll talk about creation. We'll talk about what kind of stories. We'll talk about what you need to know about that. That's the whole purpose of the rest of this series. But if you take nothing else away from the rest of this sort of mini training or whatever we want to call it, it's about the story and then the offer. See, what's happening a lot right now, because a few certain individuals have a lot of influence right now because they're paying for that influence, which, by the way, that's something that's very, very important. I think there's a big misconception that people can influence large amounts of people without ever having to pay anything. That simply isn't true. They're paying team, they're paying all sorts of different things, and we can have a episode to break down all of that. But there's a lot of people right now, big influence. They've launched a book or they've done certain things. They have videos, whatever it is, and they're talking about offer. Well, you have to understand that without the story, and these individuals even who are claiming this, they started with story and then built offers around that story. The problem with what is currently going on in the market is that everybody's looking at the offer first, and they're trying to figure out, like, what can I make? How do I make this? Like, what are other people doing? How do I do what they do? How do I make sure it has a guarantee? How do I make sure it has bonuses? How do I make sure it has risk reversal? How do I make sure? And they're focusing on the mechanisms of creating a good offer instead of the story that creates the offer in the first place. There is no offer, there is no purpose, there is no point to exercising these mechanisms like risk reversal and guarantees and all this stuff until you have a story that is interesting enough for the people at the bottom of the ladder to want to pay to go up. So that story that you told becomes their story. So let me give you some examples of this story, because and actually before I do that, it's very, very important that story has gotten a really strange name. It's become this really strange idea in marketing. Story has kind of been like, what can I say to get people to believe me? You know, you have things like story brand or story selling, and they're using elements of story to sell something. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that the offers you create must come from a story that is true, that comes from you, something you've done for someone else, or someone you have some relationship with or partnership with. Then you create offers built around that. Then you can use the story elements to, spruce it up and things like that. But we are talking about here is creating a story in your life that when you tell it to other people, they say, how can I be like that? How can I get that? How can I achieve that? So let me give you an example. And I'm just going to make these examples up, okay? So when I was a kid, and when I say I make these examples, I'm going to mix in like elements of truth and elements of not true. But when you do it, it needs to be true. So I'll give you some examples just so we cover a wide range of, niches. So you see this works, frankly, it works better outside of make money, but so you see it works in all sorts of different niches. And then I'll give you some actual examples from Peaceful Profits and the stories that we've used to create offers. But let me give you an example. When I was young, and this is totally true, when I was young, my younger brother, got bit in the face by a dog. Bite marks in the forehead, bite marks in the chin. It was really gruesome. He's lucky that it was just bite marks and it wasn't worse. Well, that happened to him. I was there, I witnessed it, and for a very long time, I was very, very terrified of dogs. Okay, that's the true story. Now we'll kind of branch from that, and I'll show you what you could do if you wanted to get into this industry. Now, obviously, you would have to tell the truth, but again, this is just for sake of example. Well, when I grew up, I was still afraid of dogs, but it was fine because if you don't have a dog, most people's dogs don't bother me. I was able to live my life. Then I had kids. And what do kids want? They want a puppy. They want a dog. And my kids really, really wanted a dog. And so I had to buck up and figure out how to stop being afraid of dogs. How was I going to be a dad and help my kids, get what they want, which was a dog? And what am I going to do? And so what I did is I went into some research and I started trying these methods, and I did this and I did that. And not only did I overcome my fear of dogs, but like every internet meme ever, the dog and I are now the best of friends. And so I've overcome this fear. And now what I'm doing with the world is, I've committed my life to helping other people overcome their fear of dogs. because having a dog is a wonderful thing. It opens my eyes and it's a great relationship. And yes, it has brought me and my children closer, and et cetera, and et cetera. Okay. So that's an example of a story. Now we need to break that down for a second. Is what I'm saying that you need to figure out how to present something in a certain way and use a template and it must have this and that? No, I'm saying that story, assuming it's true, right? Again, I'll give you actual true examples here in a second. But that true story is how I then build my entire business. I build it around that thing. The offers that I create are offers to help people through that thing I just said. I'm at the top of the ladder. I have overcome my fear of dogs. I was once at the bottom of the ladder. Now I'm at the top of the ladder. Now I'm going to create either one or multiple. Again, we'll cover that in a different episode. Different offers that will help other people do exactly what I did. And when you can get your business to this point where the offers are built around that, where your marketing message is just talking about that, you don't have to be smarmy, you don't have to trick anybody, you don't have to use silly techniques, you don't have to be overly aggressive, and you can create a story that is interesting enough and compelling enough that once people hear it, they say, that's what I want. This business, all of a sudden, easy mode. But it has to be true. And we'll talk about in the next episode, how do you make that story true? What happens if you don't have a story like that? But for now, let's give you another couple examples. Let's say, here's another example. The true part is my wife and I, we both do not come from money. Okay. Whatever the opposite of coming from money is, that was my wife and I. We both come from families that's not what we did. That's not what they did. And so our knowledge of money was non-existent. We both went through the public school system. So of course we don't know anything about money. And it wasn't until we both started our businesses, this is also true, that we realized, hey, running businesses is cool, but we don't want to work forever. Okay. We want to retire. And so we did the Dave Ramsey thing. Right? And the sort of traditional, nice and slow, keep it going, do the baby steps, do that thing. And we were doing it and it was great. And then we realized, you know what? Actually, not only do we not want to work forever, we kind of want to not work pretty soon. And that's when we started to go down the other route of how fast could we retire. And so we started to get into some pretty almost like day trading type stuff where we were almost basically gambling money. I mean, that's the best way to describe some of these investment strategies. And we realized that was way too high risk for what we were thinking that we wanted to do. We even got into real estate, realized we definitely don't want to be a landlord. And, we tried all that kind of stuff. Like, how can I, retire as fast as possible? But it was just too stressful. And what really wasn't fun to live. Because we even tried the FIRE movement, where it's basically like live like a pauper for 10, 15 years, and then you'll be able to retire. And that we didn't want to do that either. And so what we did is we discovered a very simple da-da-da-da-da, and we did this and this and this, blah, 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 blah. Now, obviously, if this was my story that I was trying to, create offers off of, I would describe exactly what we did and da-da-da, and I figured out this and I figured out that and I discovered this and then I found out this and I did this and we did this. And now I'm going to be able to retire in 2 years. And I'll be able to retire before I'm 40. And I would have retired last year, but we had a little blip in the business and I'm fixing that business, which by the way, this is all true, but I'm still going to be retired in the next 2 years. And okay, so let's, end scene, if you will. But you see, that's just a story. What am I saying? I'm simply telling you what I've done. It's not a story that's been concocted. That's not, you have to, please don't do that. The problem with this industry is that there's already too many concocted stories and it's all BS. And the buyers are getting sick of the BS. I saw somebody's campaign recently. It said we're in a trust recession. And I was thinking, yeah, there's a lot of people who are just running around in this business breaking trust. It has nothing to do with marketing or anything. It's just that people are making up stuff and saying you should buy my thing, and then it turns out not to be true. And then, that's why we have this trust problem. So these are the kind of stories that I want you to start thinking about in your life. What story from your life that you've either done for yourself or you've done for someone else is interesting and compelling enough for you to be on the top of a ladder, helping people up that ladder to do what you have already done? Now, this doesn't have to be about you. You could say, I'll give you another example. I'm a therapist. Okay, I'm not a therapist, but let's say that I am. And let's say that I focus and work with lots and lots of high performers in my practice. And let's say that my story is this. When I first started practicing 15 years ago, I noticed a trend, and the trend was an increase in burnout among some of the highest performing patients that I had. And I would notice year after year that this problem was getting worse and worse and worse. And what I discovered was those that were more connected to the online world and had the most amount of incoming communication were the ones who were the most burnt out. So what I did is I developed this system, this way of being online, of living in the online universe that allowed these high-performing people to communicate with everybody in a way that needs to be communicated. So nobody felt ignored or like that this high-performing individual, most of them being CEOs, didn't care about them or etc. But in a way that the CEO, the high-performing individual, could still get their work done. And one example that I think of is my client James, and what happened to James is blah blah blah, et cetera, right? So it doesn't have to be something you did. It could be that's still you at the top of the ladder. Still all these poor burnt out CEOs at the bottom of the ladder looking up saying, someone help get me out of here. And you reaching down and pulling them up because you have the story. Now, a lot of things come to mind. You have to have a story. What happens if you don't have a story? We'll cover that in the next episode of this series. But you see now how critical this is, because without this, you don't actually have a good offer. You might be trying to sell a ripoff of someone else's offer. That's what a lot of people do. They see somebody else is selling something, right? They quote unquote funnel hack someone else. And what happens to all these people who are funnel hacking? Their stuff fails. Why? Because they don't have the story. They're not approaching the prospect or customer relationship with, here's what happened to me, or here's what I did. I'm up here. I'm going to pull you up this ladder. They don't have that relationship with the people who are going to buy from them because they don't have the story. They don't know what to say. They don't know what it was like to be at the bottom. So they can't actually communicate anything helpful to the people that they're trying to talk to. Now, there's something that's really, really important, because how good your story is, the more money you will make. Now, the question is, what does good mean? Good stories, as in the sense that we're talking about here, have 3 elements. Element number 1 is drama. So did something crazy or wild happen? I was homeless and now I'm this, right? I was working a 90-hour job I hated in the city. Now I'm living free as a farmer connected to the land. There's some drama in there. You can even, and I'm not saying that you add this. I'm saying if your story, if it has drama, I had to abandon my whole old life and completely readopt a new identity to become this farmer. I had to move to Central America because that was the only farmland I could afford. There's drama and there's intrigue and there's all these cool things. That's a good story. That story will outsell somebody whose story is, I grew up and inherited this farm and now I'm a farmer. I'm sorry if that is like bad news to hear, that Stories with more drama will sell better than stories without a lot of drama, but that's just the human condition. That's what we're talking about here. Again, if you don't want to deal with humans, this is not the business to be in. I would recommend doing something else. I don't know what else to do because almost all of business requires interaction with humanity. But this one in particular, the help industry, coach, consultant, health professional, working with patients, clients, it is humanity front and center. And drama is something that is compelling to human beings. They will spend hours every day consuming drama on Netflix, even if it's not called drama. Every story on Netflix has some drama, even the documentaries, right? The drama is what drives that sort of page-turning necessity to binge watch episode after episode after episode. So the first thing it has to have is drama for it to be good. The second thing is it has to have dreams. Okay? Dreams are important. What do I mean by dreams? The higher the ladder, the easier it is to sell. If my story is that I can help you learn how to type 25 words a minute, that's not as compelling as I can teach you how to type at whatever speed and make $1 million a year publishing stories you just make up called fiction. Those are two different, very different core stories that have very different levels in terms of how easy one is or isn't to sell. And so that means if your story doesn't have big dreams, if your story doesn't have drama, it's going to be harder for you. Now, business is all about consequences. It doesn't mean you have to crank up the drama, crank up the dreams. You don't have to do anything, but you do have to live the consequences of whatever it is you're trying to sell. This is why I say it's worth spending time creating good offers, because this is going to be your life. So if you like a lot of struggle in selling, in marketing, in trying to convince people, then avoid drama, avoid dreams in your story. And then the third thing that makes a very good story is how unique it is. Right? So if your story is something that nobody has ever heard before, or it's less common. For example, I saw an ad the other day that I just thought was brilliant. And it was about, it was an ad selling how to make money investing in Legos. Oh my gosh, it was that. If you've been in this industry for as long as I have been in, you can see an idea and be like, oh, this person is going to make a ton of money. Because no one is talking about making money investing in Legos. And guess what this person had? They had a story. The story was they were obsessed with Lego. They love Lego. Husband and wife. And they were like trying to figure out, how do I make some side money? And they learned how to flip Legos. That's their story. They said, this is me. This is what I did. Here's my results. And look, the results weren't like they didn't make millions of dollars with their Legos, but they made some cool side money. And the dream is the side money, make some good money doing what you love with Lego. Hey, are you obsessed with Lego? Lots of people are obsessed with Lego. Millions of people are obsessed with Lego. Who among them wouldn't want to obsess over Lego and make some money? Like, that's the dream. And of course, the drama of, hey, we made some side money. We really needed it, all that stuff. And then it's interesting because nobody was talking about it. And, this is one of those areas that is so frustrating for me in the work that I do, because everyone gets so hung up on the guru of the week. I've been in this business for 17 years. I see them come and go. Like, the gurus that are right now, they're not going to be here in 5 years. They just aren't. Either they'll make so much money they don't have to do this anymore, or they'll just move on to something else, or what they were saying before doesn't really work as much anymore, Or to put it frankly and bluntly, their business fails or they get in trouble, or that's just been this business for 17 years. And what frustrates me so much is that the Guru of the Month club tends to create mini-me's and people who just want to copy what the guru is doing, not realizing that what is making that guru's thing work is that they are one of the only people saying it. And that if you go and try to tell their exact same story in the exact same way that they're saying it, you are purposely making it so unbelievably difficult for yourself. And so the uniqueness of your story is so important. It's so, so important. All right, so drama, dreams, and how unique your story is. Now, if you don't have those things, again, the consequences of that is it's just going to be hard for you to deal with. It's going to be hard to sell. It's going to be hard to convince people. You're probably not going to have the margins because you're going to be a lookalike offer. You're going to be like milk on a shelf, right? Milk is a commodity because they all look the same. They all generally taste about the same. There's no real difference between most of the brands. And so it's a race to the bottom. And what happens in a race to the bottom? There's no margin. You have to do volume. That's the nightmare business. We have to do tons of volume and there's no margin. It is a nightmare. It is a nightmare. You will burn out. I don't care what your morning routine is or how often you cold shower or whatever. You will burn out under those conditions. It is not humane to run that kind of business. So now once you have this story, and again, if you don't have one, that's okay. We'll talk about it in the next episode. But once you have this story, then you create offers around the story. And the offers that you're creating, they have strategic purpose, which we'll talk about in another part of our series, and they have the purpose of helping people up the ladder. Right? You're up at the top. Each rung in the ladder is some offer, something you do for someone that gets them one step closer, one step closer, one step closer. But see, if you don't have a story, you don't even know what the rungs of the ladder are supposed to be. You don't know how to get them from, like we teach, state A to state B. You don't know what they're supposed to do or achieve or what their problems are or anything like that. You just don't know. And it's not because you're dumb. It's not because you're, not good enough. It's not because you don't have the skills. It's because you just don't have the story. And so discovering that story or creating that story is what we're going to talk about in the next episode. But that's the first step. Doing that, not running off and trying to make an offer real quick. It's finding or creating that story. And I'll give you an example. At the time of this recording, there is a big name in the internet marketing world who has, right now, I say probably one of the best stories, but again, it won't go forever. This, sort of a guru flavor of the month type of situation, but one of the best stories going right now, tons of ads, clearly a successful campaign, all about how he was sued by the FTC. And his story is, I wasn't running compliant copy. I got sued. It was a nightmare. Drama, drama, drama. Now we enter the dream part of the story, but I turned it all around. I'm now more successful than I've ever been, staying completely compliant. I feel absolutely safe in my business. And now I'm here to help you, those of you at the bottom of the ladder who are still running non-compliant copy, and it's only a matter of time you're going to get in trouble. Let me help you climb up this and be where I'm at. Where I'm at is I feel I can sleep at night because I know my marketing isn't going to get me in trouble. And how unique is that? Who else is saying that right now? Very few people, if anybody, certainly not as loud as this person is. Now that story, which is something that actually happened to them. Again, we don't want to make this stuff up. Now, I don't know if he is or isn't fudging details. I'm not going to get into that. Let's just assume it's all true for sake of this example. Be the kind of person who only tells true stories. Please don't make stuff up. Please don't be another one of those idiots. It'll catch up to you, frankly. But you have this story, and then what has he done? He's built a line of offers and products off of this story. There's the low ticket book. There's continuity. There's the high ticket offers, selling something from a webinar. He's even has software now that's all built around this single story. Every single offer in his offer suite is helping people up that ladder, rung by rung. Here's another tool. Here's another insight. Here's another, etc. And what I want to do is that over the next couple of parts of this video series, whatever we're calling it, I want to help you to do that. I want to help you to find the story, and I want to help you plot out all the different offers that you ought to be using in your, you don't try and create them all at once. We'll talk about all that in another episode. But the opportunity to create not just $1 million offer, but a series of offers that they begin to stack one on another. And here's a cool thing about this world and about this industry and about this market is that there's no rule that says you only have to have one story. Because the cool thing about this business is that when you find that first story, the next couple of stories become very easy. In fact, this is how it normally goes. Your first story is very likely to be something along the lines of, I was able to achieve something cool. And then you build a business around that. You build a series of offers around that. But then you start having more clients than you really have time to run your own life. Not saying that you lose balance, but you're not ever in that situation again. Frankly, all your stories kind of get boring because things are going so well. You can still have a couple of stories here and there, but what presents more and more of an opportunity for you to come up with really compelling stories is then the people you work with. So the first story is probably going to be, I did something cool and now I want to help you. And your next couple of stories are going to be, I did this really cool thing for this client. It turned out really awesome. And now I want to do that for more clients. And so you can see, now think of each of these stories as not just an offer, but another line of revenue, another business almost that has a suite of offers that you can build around this core thing that you're saying. I did something cool and now this, or I did something cool for this person and now I want to help other people up this ladder. And you can, over time, start stacking ladder after ladder after ladder. And you have these income, revenue, businesses, whatever you want to call them, however you set it up in your world. And that's how you can make a tremendous amount of money in this business and in this industry. And at no point do you have to use smarmy tactics. As long as you're always telling the truth about your stories, as long as you're doing the work to create good stories, which we'll talk about in part 2. And I have found this to be the easiest way to be successful in this business. And I'll give you some examples. The One Book Millions method, that funnel, which was launched in 2019, has been going on now at the time of this recording for 5 years, still continues to sell 30, 50 plus books a day, still continues to bring in clients for our $5,000, $16,000, and $60,000 offers, which were all built around what? A single story. What's the story? The story was that in 2016, I got sick and tired of webinars. I didn't want to do webinars anymore. So what did I do? I replaced all my webinars and any marketing that was aimed at freebie seekers. And I said, screw it. I'm just going to only sell a book. And so I wrote a book selling what my services were in 2016. And I said, I'm just going to sell this book. And if you buy this book, then we can talk. And that's how I'm going to run my business. And that was the most single best, smartest thing I've ever done. Still to this day, and I'm recording this in 2024, that's still the best decision I've ever made, was switching from freebie seekers to basically you can only come into my world if you bought our book. And that's the story. That's what I did for myself. And then what I did with the One Book Millions method is I said, hey, I'm up here. I'm the guy who figured out how to get lots of cool clients using a book. Those of you down at the bottom who are like struggling with clients, you don't like your clients, you're not getting respect, you're not doing that, et cetera, come up this ladder. I'll help you up this ladder so you can be exactly like I am and have a book bringing you clients. That's it. That's the whole business. It launched Peaceful Profits, multiple 7 figures per year. We have multiple product lines now, and It was just a story. And now every time we think of offering something new, the first thing you have to think about is, what's the story? You may have, if you've ever been on our email list before, just a couple of weeks ago, I launched the 6-figure passive author. Well, that's just a story. It was just a product, just an offer of, here's how I make 6 figures a year passively through book royalties. This is what I've done. It's pretty cool. I think it's interesting. And I want to teach you how to do it too. Now, all of a sudden, your whole life is just doing cool things and then helping other people do those cool things. I cannot think of a better business to run than that. All right? It doesn't matter if you're health and fitness or your relationships. You save your own marriage, then you go save everybody else's marriage. And then maybe you figure out how to deepen intimacy after you save your marriage, or you help somebody else deepen their intimacy. So you're doing these cool things. And then you go teach other people, you help other people, or you have done for you services, or, let's say you're health and fitness and you're like, I've helped people to reverse the terrible symptoms of type 2 diabetes. And I did it for myself and now I do it for others. Or maybe you never did it for yourself. You just were lucky that you never had type 2 diabetes. But you've had this, a practice where you're a physician or something, and the majority of your patients have type 2, and you've figured out this regiment of how to reverse their type 2 and et cetera. And that's your whole life. It's just doing cool things for yourself and others, and then turning around and helping people to achieve that same thing. It is the most simple way to think about this entire business. And it will, when you're having those rough days and everything seems so complicated and so stressful, and what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why is it like this? You just keep returning to that. Am I doing cool enough things for myself or others? Are the dreams big enough? Is it unique enough? Is there enough drama? Is it interesting enough for other people to look at and say, I want to climb up that ladder? So let me stop there. This has gone on quite a while. I told my team this was going to be 10 minutes long, but everybody knows that I cannot keep my mouth shut when I get going. So I apologize if this was really, really long. Hopefully it was helpful in some way. The next couple of parts, we're going to be talking about how to find your story, right? It's an important skill to develop, how to find, discover, or create your story. We'll be talking also about strategically creating offers around that story. What should the price points be? What should it be? Continuity, high ticket, why? What's a low ticket? How does that fit into everything? And I'll show you how to create each of them so that they each can bring in at least $1 million in revenue, how they'll work together, interplay. And then we'll talk about traffic, because none of this really matters if you can't get your offer in front of the right people. All right, so we've got a lot to cover over the next couple of days. I hope you enjoy this format. We're just trying some new stuff out. Honestly, I'm just looking for, I'm trying to make a new story. I did X and was able to achieve Y. Now let me show you how I did it. And so we're experimenting. And this is one of the things that we're doing. All right. So that's it. We will see you in part 2 tomorrow. If, however, at any point you feel like you would really like some extra help with all of this, and you say, yes, the ramblings were nice, Mike, thank you very much, but I would love somebody to actually give me some feedback or some insight or really help me to put all of this together, I would recommend that you go to peacefulprofits.com/call, book a call with our team. We have more than one offer that can help you to find and develop this story, create offers around this story, sell those offers, and most importantly, scale those offers. We can also help you do my favorite thing, which is to take that story and put it in a book. Now, why would we put the story in the book? Because this is I could go on another 45 minutes. I'll try to keep this as short as possible. When you take that story and you put it in a book, you are scaling the telling of that story. Meaning you can sell 30, 50, 100 copies a day of that story. People are reading it and consuming it because they bought it. It's a book. They want to consume the information. If it's written well and correctly, it's high value to the reader. But it also allows them to see the ladder they need to climb up and how you are up there waiting for them to help them go up that ladder. That's what a good book should do in this particular industry. So we help people, we do it for them. We have ghostwriting offers. We do it with them. There's a bunch of different ways that we help people to find their story, refine their story, get that story in an asset that will sell for them constantly, create offers. That's all we do here. Because we love it and because it's something that we've done for ourselves. Now we have story after story after story after story of people that we've done it for as well. So again, that's peacefulprofits.com/call. We'd love to chat with you. If you can't find a time, sometimes our calendars are pretty full. Just shoot us an email, successteam@peacefulprofits.com. We can also help you that way. But again, that's peacefulprofits.com/call. We'd love to help you. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow for part 2 on how to find your story if it isn't obvious or you need a little bit of help. So we'll see you then.